Is there too much COVID hysteria, bearing in mind the statistics from the research I've just mentioned here live on air? We are dealing with an unprecedented situation.
We're dealing with an unprecedented amount of people being tested and being positive, but not really being ill. I know that people are dying, but not in comparison to many other illnesses that are being absolutely, in my opinion, reprehensibly left behind. But also the fact is that people's mental health now is completely deteriorating to the point where there was an article out today about the amount of suicides that ambulance people are going to have to see. And on top of that, we're getting kids' charities saying that children are being treated for high levels of OCD, health anxiety, COVID PTSD. I mean, never in the history of any kind of pandemic has a government chosen to quarantine healthy people, destroy an economy, ruin children's futures.
What then can the government do? It's very difficult when we hear from the scientists. You say that deaths don't seem to be increasing and reflecting in the number of cases, but I spoke to an expert earlier and said, look out, it's going to get a lot worse than we thought. How can the government deal with protecting people's livelihoods, mental well-being, as well as dealing with this virus?
I mean, the second wave didn't come. I've got the data. We've been waiting for it, haven't we? All the way through, that's been the conversation. Wait for the second wave.
Is it not coming now, though?
Almost wanting it. No. Cases-wise, I mean, you could argue there's a wave there because you're testing everybody. And also people test people when they get into hospital with something completely different. So it's skewed. The data's skewed, and they know that. Listen, I think the government in the beginning had a hard decision to make. And I don't think that they can be blamed for Mother Nature either. But now they can be blamed. Now they can be blamed for senseless, needless deaths of children. Now they can be blamed for mothers dying of brain cancer because they didn't get treated. Now they can be blamed for our economy causing catastrophic impacts on poverty, the poor who already die young, 10 years younger than the average kind of COVID death, in fact, because that's what poverty does. But we'll answer it by lockdowns, we'll answer it by restrictions, we'll answer it by killing the economy. I don't think so. And in 10 years' time, the future will be our answer to this, because believe me, the truth is coming and they better be ready for it because we're going to hold them to account.
Right, what should the government then be doing?
Don't quarantine healthy people. Give people back autonomy that we've always had. This is a democracy, not a dictatorship. Give people the opportunity to choose to shield. My mother doesn't want a shield. She's 78. She wants to live her life fully. Trust people with their own autonomy and choices, and stop skewing data to terrify children that in the future is going to mean that our economy is crippled and we don't have the answers to the mental health crisis because the funding no longer exists.
Just a final point. You do appear in mainstream media. You're an expert in your own field. How much, though, do you think the media is responsible for this hysteria?
I mean, the media is there to sell papers and to do things that bring clickbait in, and that's something that the media have always been there to do, and they've got to do it. That's what makes their living. I definitely think that the fear narrative has been pumped out massively, but then I also imagine there's an agenda where they have to, and I think that it's been brave of certain outlets to challenge that and to start challenging that. But we've always got to remember, as human beings, we have a choice to read or not to read. If we stopped reading that and wanting that and asking for that and thought better about our own mental health and wellness, maybe we wouldn't. So it's a 50-50. Yes, I blame the government for their horrible, reprehensible fear narrative, and I wish the media had been more discerning about affecting children's lives so terribly. But we are at this point in the situation, and I hope that it's going to be the turning of a tide. And I'm really proud that a group of people have come together with Recovery, Lord Sumption, Professor Carroll, all of these individuals who have a lot to lose. We have a lot to lose doing this, but this isn't about us. This is about children, the future, and hopefully our economy.
What's your advice on how we should cope with this, please, from a psychiatrist's point of view, psychologist's point of view?
Genuinely say no is what I'd say. I think that we live in a democracy. It's time for a conversation where we all come together and acknowledge that, for example, 30 million people have data on their smartphones. That means they're not engaged in a conversation. It's too expensive. 2 million households have no internet, which means that the most poor and marginalised, they haven't got a voice. Listen, the government might be reacting to Twitter and social media and those that it pays to not be against this agenda, but they are not the people that they should be listening to.
But you wouldn't be advocating breaking COVID restrictions, would you?
I would be advocating us all lobbying government to end restrictions.
But not
with that. And also, can I just say this as well? And this is really important, and I will go on record doing this. I'm really willing to do this. Safeguarding law has always been something I have practiced. In safeguarding, it is our duty as a practitioner, whether we are a teacher, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, to protect at all odds the area of life. If you as a human being are socially isolated and are going to kill yourself, do I think you should break restrictions to go and see somebody that can save you? Do I think that your life carries more weight than the law in that moment? Yes. And to be honest, if any practitioner were to challenge me on that, then I would say you need to go and retrain in your safeguarding, because life is very, very, very priceless. That's including lives that aren't COVID orientated. So yes, I would say if you need to survive, you do whatever you need to survive.